Do not over-focusing too much. Do not over-focusing too much. You have to sense that. Over-focusing and sensing or feeling, being self-aware is different things. When we're being feeling or sensing it, we do it naturally. But while we're over-focusing, we are doing it out of craving. We want to be good, we want to be great, we want this and that. We then over-focusing or looking at things, which makes the mind tense and tight, both body and mind. Sometimes your neck might be painful or your eyes will be strained. Try to uphold the 5 precepts. This morning, there was a person submit homework and didn't practice very well. And I realized that their 5 precepts are not good enough. If doesn't have good enough 5 precepts, then your mind will be miserable. Your mind is not happy because you commit wrongdoing. Without morality, you wouldn't be able to develop the samadhi. At first, it might be difficult to maintain the 5 precepts. Some people say that the evil thing is easy to do. Most people say that evil things easy to be done, and goodness is very difficult to be done. But Lord Buddha didn't say that, because you're only looking at one perspective. Lord Buddha have seen through all these aspects, all kinds of aspects. He said that the evilness can be done through evil persons, and it's going to be very difficult for them to commit good deeds, which depends on your demeanors. Some people like to kill animals. Not to kill animals is difficult because they're craving for killing them. Some people didn't want to harm anybody or anything. But if necessary, if they have to do so, it makes them uncomfortable. So try to uphold the 5 precepts very well, and try to train to cultivate the mindfulness. To cultivate the mindfulness is a big deal, because cultivating mindfulness by observing the body and mind is the middle path, is the only path to transcend the suffering. Without mindfulness, to be aware of the body and mind, we don't have to talk about the Nibbana at all. Some people sitting meditation, being calm, sometimes scattered. They keep on sitting and expecting to liberating. It's impossible. It's 2 different things. To sit in meditations and for the purpose of calmness, you only gain the calmness. The ultimate objective is that you're going to become a Brahma deity. If you want to transcend the cycle of samsara without taking birth and rebirth again, you have to concentrate on the mindfulness. It is the mindfulness, not the calmness. Speaking of mindfulness, most people didn't know what the mindfulness is. They thought that every one of us have already had the mindfulness. Otherwise, we are going crazy. But that's different issues. The mindfulness that we'll be able to use in order to cultivate wisdom to transcend the suffering is the full foundation of mindfulness, not no ordinary mindfulness. That's why Lord Buddha said that it is the right mindfulness. For those who study the text, then misinterpret this and thought that mindfulness shouldn't be added to the right, need not to be added in the mindfulness. But actually in the text, in the Tripitaka, there only right mindfulness as well. Actually, I used to read the text and seen the wrong mindfulness as well. So not all of the mindfulness can be used. The mindfulness is the recognition of the existence of the body and mind. That's when you're cultivating the full foundation of mindfulness. When the mindfulness is wholesome, the mindfulness is actually the public wholesomeness. But for the very important mindfulness is the full foundation of mindfulness to be aware of the body and mind. In the text can be categorized into body, feelings, mind, and Dhamma, which can be concluded as to be physical and mental parts. If you could see the physical parts of ourselves, try to recognize the existence of the physical parts, as well as the mental parts, the existence of it. The mindfulness is the one that be able to recognize these phenomena. And once you go into details, you could see the changes, to recognize the changes of the physical and mental parts as well. This is when you practice more subtle. The mindfulness that can recognize has no characteristics of drifting away or forgetting. When you're recognizing body or mind, you wouldn't be able to forget it. You have the discernment or sampachanya. You know when to be aware of the body, when to be aware of the mind. You don't forget about them. Most people, their mindfulness doesn't live with themselves. When seeing the physical parts, the mind sending out to see the physical parts. Whilst the mind sending out to see a physical part, they forget about the body. When the mind drifts away to see the physical parts, then they wouldn't be able to notice it as well. So you don't even know both body and mind while drifting away or wandering away. When hearing sounds like people quarreling or making argument, and they pay attention to those conversations, at the moment that even the mosquito bite you, you wouldn't be able to feel it. You wouldn't know. You wouldn't know anything that happened to your body because you're drifting. Your mind drifting away to hear the sounds, like your neighbors having quarrel, and your mind criticized their behaviors, and you didn't realize that. It means that you don't have the mindfulness to be aware of the mind. So when you're wandering away, there's no mindfulness at all. While wandering away, for example, wander off to think of other things. Even the body exists, you forget about it. Even the mind exists, you forget about the mind. You forget all of these things. When you forget all the body and mind, you wouldn't be able to cultivate wisdom. Because wisdom cultivation is all about learning about the truth of the body and mind. Forgetting body and mind, then there is no lesson for us to learn. For example, if your mind drifts away and you forget about yourself, how is it even possible to be aware, to know the truth of the body? When the mind wandering away, you wouldn't be able to see that your mind scattered, your mind drifting away. How is it possible if you want to learn the truth of the mind? So mindfulness is not drifting away. While drifting away, you don't have mindfulness. Most of the time, we drifting away to think of other things all the time. That's the first thing. The second thing, we drift away to listen, to taste, to hear things. For example, we have scent and odors, unpleasant scent, but we are familiarized with our scent. The scent is there, but we don't pay attention to the scent. But if there are different sort of scent that coming up, you don't pay attention to your own scent anymore because you get used to it. Without strange scent, then you don't have the mind to pay attention to those things. Most of the time we drifting away to think about the things, and then you drift away to look at things and also hear things. The rest of the channels are very minor, but whenever there are very strong contact making happens, then we'll be able to sense that. Most of the people wandering away all the time, they never sense about their body. When, for example, they commit, they've done the tooth extractions, it's very painful. They don't want to forget about the body, but they already recognize the body because that's a strong contact making. Most of the time we drifting away, wandering away to think. The second thing is drifting away to see, and then drift away to smell, to taste. When we drifting away, we don't have the mindfulness. We have the unwholesomeness, which is the delusion. The mindfulness is wholesome. It doesn't arise together with the unwholesomeness. Therefore, if you're drifting away, wandering away, you don't have the mindfulness. Walking meditation, you know every step you make, on and on. But the mind drift away. It's not workable. I used to observe Master Luangpu Tien teaching his disciples and students, and Luangpu Tien do it correctly. But for the disciple, one group of the disciples keep on thinking which movement they will make next, which step will they take. At that moment, they don't have mindfulness. They're drifting away to think through the mind. Keep on thinking. Sometimes the other group of people making a very beautiful movement automatically, but the mind go traveling outside the temple. That meaning that they don't have mindfulness as well. Even walking or sitting meditation is very nicely, or moving their hands very nicely. Without mindfulness, they don't practice at all. That's why Luangpu Man said that with the mindfulness you practice Dhamma. Without mindfulness, you don't practice Dhamma. With mindfulness, you have the right effort. Without mindfulness, you don't have the right effort. Therefore, mindfulness is very important thing. That's why we're very diligent at practicing Dhamma, but we don't make progress. Without mindfulness, you won't be able to prosper. The first thing in mindfulness is that we don't forget things. The other thing is the number one mistake of Dhamma practitioners is that they overfocusing on things, on the objects. Why we overfocusing? Because we want to see things clearly. We don't want to lack of mindfulness. We develop the craving. The craving or defilements actually arises together with the karma. Even though you're doing good karma like meditation, but if defilements meddle with your practice all along, then you won't be that doesn't mean you're cultivating mindfulness because you are overwhelmed by the defilements. Other people are absent-minded all the time. When they're walking and sitting meditation, they are very absent-minded as well. Without mindfulness, it's not workable. They're drifting away, wandering away with scatterings of the mind. That's another defilement which is categorized as delusions called uttacca in Bali. When you're sitting or walking meditation, you have intention to practice. You develop the greed. Now you want to take action to practice or sitting meditation. You don't see the craving, then you're focusing on the object. You want to have the mindfulness all the time. You don't want to miss it. As long as you're doing that, whether sitting, you don't have mindfulness because you do it out of greed. The overfocusing out of the greed is still there along the line of the practice. While having the greed, you don't have the mindfulness because the mindfulness doesn't arise together with the defilements. Do you understand what I'm saying? When you cultivate the mindfulness, everyone seems to cultivate mindfulness, but actually that's not the truth. Because a group of people might drifting away and become scattered all the time. Other group of people might overcast things, having the craving to be good, to get that, to get this, and overcast things, but it wasn't good, so you develop the aversion, become irritated while sitting meditations. Anyone become irritated while sitting meditation? Raise your hand. The rest of you know? You're telling lies. You're very good at telling lies. Try to observe. The true mindfulness wouldn't go to two extremes. It wouldn't satisfy the defilements. Some people drifting away and become scattered and think of other things and forget about themselves. You don't have the mindfulness. The other one is focusing on the body and mind. You focusing the mind to be still, and you're talking that you have the mindfulness to be aware of the body and mind, but you know them with the greed. As long as the greed is still there, the mindfulness wouldn't arise. Therefore, that's why I try to concentrate on when practicing to be aware of the body and mind, not drifting away, forgetting about your body and mind, and don't overfocusing on the body and mind as well. We don't overfocusing on the body and mind, and don't drift away. Then we develop the true mindfulness. When you drifting away, you have the scatterness. You don't have the mindfulness. When you're overfocusing, you have the greed. You don't have the mindfulness. So how could we not drift away? It's impossible. The mind are accustomed to scatter away, drift away. We cannot forbid it to happen, but we can try to be aware of the phenomena. By meditating on an object, you have to have the home base. Once the mind leaves the object in meditation, leave the home base, then you'll be able to recognize that now you drift away. For example, chanting Buddha, 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 on, and you forget about the Buddha and think of other things. You forget about the Buddha for a bit of time and you realize that you just forgot Buddha and you come back chanting Buddha again. That's when you meditate on an object and try to be aware of the mind that drifts away or flowing away. At first, you might lost for a long period of time. But once you keep on training, then you become good at it. When the mind drifts away, no so, drift again, no so again, and then the mindfulness will arises very connectedly, very frequently. Your mindfulness doesn't arise frequently because you're drifting away for a long period of time. For example, you just drift away for like an hour, but one day you might drift away for a few times. But for those who have quick mindfulness, one drift away, then also drift again, also again. In one day, they might be drifted away for like 10,000 or 100,000 times. They drift away very frequently. It's better than people who drift away only one time a day. From dusk till dawn, they never know themselves. But if one day you can be aware of 2 times, if you know one time, you drift away 2 times. For example, you drift away and then you'll be aware of it, you know so, that one time. And then you forget about yourself all day long. That's meaning that you be aware of yourself one time, which means that you drift away 2 times. But if you drift away, if you be aware of yourself 2 times, then it means that you drift away 3 times. That's why drift away equals to being aware plus 1. So be drift away very frequently, but not drift away for long period of time. Keep on practicing. One drift away, you know so. Drift again, and you know so again. That's good. Wandering away is something that we cannot forbid it to happen. But once the mind wanders away, and the mindfulness kicks in to be aware of the mind that drifts away, the mind that drifts away will fall away, and the knower mind will rise, take place, the drift away mind. Overcasting is something that we are accustomed to. We drift away because we are used to it. We are overcasting because we are used to it. For those who never practice Dhamma, most of the time they drift away all the time. But for those Dhamma practitioners, while not practicing, they're drifting away. When they come to practice Dhamma, they're overcasting as much as possible. And they might become tight, become serious, become stressful. It's impossible to achieve good things. So when the mind drifts away also, and the drift away mind will fall away. But once you're overcasting, you be aware of it, and it's not fall away easily like that. We will able to quit overcasting when we see the cause of overcasting, which is the craving. You wanting to be good, want to see, want to become good. But when you start practicing and the mind overcasting, the mind becomes tight. You observe it, but it doesn't go away. But if you take a closer look of how come it's overcasting, you see that because of the craving to become calmness, to become calm. The craving, which is defilements, if we are aware of it, it will fall away. Greed, the craving to practice Dhamma, once arises and you have the mindfulness to be aware of it, then there is no craving to overcasting. And if the craving fall away, then the overcasting will fall away. The mind that becomes tight will start to relax. Why is that relax suddenly? Because you have to bear the consequence. For those who practice and overcasting for a long period of time, when they don't overcasting, the mind will be still tight for a period of time because you have to bear the consequence. So train yourself, meditate on objects, and try to be aware of your mind. When the mind drifts away, know so, and the mind will become stable. If the mind overcasting, know so, but you're still overcasting, you have to be aware. For example, the craving. You crave for Dhamma practice, that's why you're overcasting. And the other craving is that when you're overcasting, you know so. And that moment you don't observe the craving to overcasting, you see the other one, which is you wanting to quit the overcasting. If you want to quit the overcasting, you have to be aware of the craving. If you craving for quitting the overcasting, you have to be aware of it as well. Otherwise, you will struggle to get it away, to get rid of it. And that makes the mind become scattered. You don't have the samadhi or mindfulness anyway. The mind becomes stable instead. So keep on training yourself. It's the skill. This is very detailed. Most of the masters wouldn't teach into these details. When they see your face, they just say chanting Buddha. You Buddha for years or 2 years, and it takes some time to understand the principle. If they can grasp the principle of Dhamma practice, then wouldn't make progress. But if anyone can understand the principle that you chant Buddha to gain the mindfulness, then the master will teach you further how to cultivate wisdom. Without the first lesson, the master wouldn't teach the second lesson. That's what master taught us. I studied with masters and they taught me like that. I started studying mindfulness breathing with Tanpali. He taught me to breathe in count one, breathe out. So count two, and I do trials and errors. Why today it's calm, and the other day it's not calm. Keep on observe and doing trial and errors until I can grasp the principle, the strategy, I grasp the tactics of the practice. Everyone has the text, the principles, but each tricks and tactics are different to different individuals. I start by silent meditation, and the mind becomes calm and bright and see different things like celestial beings and different things, and I realized that it wasn't profitable. But once the mind becomes bright and the mind will go towards the brightness, I wouldn't follow the brightness. I'd be aware of the mind that the mind moved away. Then the mind becomes stable for a period of time. Once the mind moves away again, no so, then move away again, no so again. Keep on doing this. And sometimes the mind move away to the thoughts or move away to the brightness. And be aware of them. Keep on practicing like this every day. Meditate on an object and be aware of the mind, of your own mind. If the mind drifts away to other things, no so. If the mind focusing on the objects, no so. The mind flow towards the brightness, which is the object meditation, and be aware of it as well. If the mind move away to the world of thoughts, I realize that as well. I keep on practicing like it without really knowing why. Because when I learning with Master just told me a little bit, and I have to practice on my own. And I keep practicing so for about 3 years. Breathe in, breathe out. So once the mind drift away, no so. The mind sending out to objects, which is the brightness, no so. The breath is already gone. It turns to be the brightness, to be the light. And 3 days went by. There was a house fire next to my house, and I was so startled and have no mindfulness. I run towards my father to tell my father that the other house is burned. And the first step is very astonished, and the second step is still startled. But for the third step, the mind could see the astonishment, and that astonishment gone. The mind become upright and stable. And that the very first time that I could see the consequence of my practice. The consequence of practice of like drifting away, no so, focusing, no so, and that the taste of the stability of the mind is just like that. It's just only the knowing, the blissful, and the being aware. I was a child. I wasn't with the masters, so I didn't realize that what happened. The minds become awakened and you don't know what to do next. It just become awakened. I will keep on meditating and it will become awakened. Sometimes it becoming asleep. Keep on practicing is more awakened, but I don't know how to make use of it. I was innocent back then, and I thought that everyone in this world are the same, were the same. When I grown up, I realized that only few people can truly become awakened. Even the people in the Dhamma practitioners group is only limited to few people who can become awakened. Most people all focusing and become relaxed and comfortable, and most people overfocusing and become tight and stressful. I keep on practicing. I got the knowing mind. I see the body walk, seeing, lying down, breathing, breathe out. Keep on seeing these postures. When any emotions, strong emotion happens like aversion, I can see it too. But I don't know what to practice next. I just become self-aware on and on. When I meet Luangpu Dun taught me to observe my mind, to know my heart, so that I can move to the next step. When the mind becomes stable, I only become an observer. and I could observe all the feelings comes and goes all day long, on and on. At first, I didn't know. I try to force it. I want to make it to be still and empty. I made this mistake for 3 months, and I went to visit Master Luangpu again, and Luangpu said that you make a mistake. That was wrong. And I realized that if I tried to fabricate the mind to be empty still, that was wrong. The empty mind is actually out of degree. You want it to be good and great. You fabricate the mind to be still and empty. You want to be good. And you think that the emptiness would help you go into Nibbana. To go to Nibbana, you have to understand the truth of the body and mind, the 5 aggregates, not by fabricating the mind to be empty. Fabricating the mind to be empty is actually the wholesome action. You won't be able to transcend the fabrications. So that I realized that people who taught that student to make the mind become empty, that was a mistake, that was wrong. Because the mind has the duty to fabricate and think all the time. So whatever happens, whatever you think fabricates, realize that. You see that these fabrications comes and go. You see that happy and unhappy mind arising and falling away, the unwholesomeness arising and falling away. If you can see observing like this, then you start to develop the wisdom. You see that even the happy mind is actually the happiness comprised with the mind. The happiness is not the mind is not happiness. When the suffering arises, the suffering is one thing, the happiness is another thing. It's two separate entities. Then you can come back to the mind. Wholesomeness and unwholesomeness are not the mind as well. These are mental factors arising together with the mind. They are not the mind. At first, you observe like this, and you can see that the mind comprised together with the mental parts, like happiness, good or bad. You see that these things are not the mind. The mind is the one who knows these phenomena, and you can enter the mind. You can go to the mind. If you want to come back to the mind straightforwardly, it's incorrect. A few days ago, a person asked me while sitting meditation, whenever the mind see any part of the body, to see that the circling things, the wavering things, how could he observe next? And then I said that the circling things, the revolting thing, is not the mind. The mind is the one that observes. The mind knows that only the phenomena that happen is not the mind. Just be aware of it. Do not try to pay attention to it. Don't try to be curious about it. What is it? What happens? What the cause of it? That's the waste of time. Just be aware of the mind that become curious. When you know it and you become irritated, know so as well. Do not just going to observe that circling, revolving things. You keep on observing that you can tend to be more aware of the mind. You see that happiness, good or bad, are not the mind. The mind is the nature to know of these phenomena. You can see that the knower mind arises again and fall away. The thinking mind is arising and falling away. The minds that go to see, go to feel, go to hear, go to smell, go to taste, feel the body sensation, arising and fall away. Wherever the mind arises, it falls away right there. For example, the mind that arises in the eyes, it falls away at the eye, and it arises in other parts of the body, other part of the channel. But the mind arising and falling away very quickly, still we couldn't see it. We thought that the mind permanent, because it arising together very quickly, we didn't see it. People these days don't know the movie film anymore. Raise your hand if you could see it. Do not afraid to getting old. The children today never seen this movie film anymore. Each picture in the frame is different. It's different frame, it's different pictures, but one is once it is arise and falling away, fall very quickly through the machine, then you start to see the characters moving, but actually that character is not moving. It's actually the picture arising and falling away, and it causes an illusion that making the characters moving. And right, likewise, we thought that the mind running away through six senses, but actually the mind didn't run like that. Wherever the mind arises, it falls away right there, very quickly, like a snap of fingers. If you keep on practicing, you start to see the truth more and more, only by cultivating your mindfulness, by observing the movement of the body and the mind on and on. And then you start to cultivate the wisdom. The aggregates are separated. The body is one thing, the feelings, happiness and happiness, neither happiness nor unhappiness are another thing. Perception and interpretation is another things, and fabrication, wholesome and unwholesomeness are other things. The mind is another thing, which is the consciousness. Keep on knowing these, and you see that the forms are not us, feelings are not us, fabrication are not us, and even the mind is not us as well. There was one monk, submitted homework. They practicing Dhamma, until they could see that the five aggregates are only the consequence, but the mind have the craving to take a grip on the aggregates. The practice is good practice. When you see that the five aggregates form, these five aggregates are only the consequence. Once the mind be aware of it, then it causes the suffering. That's when we practice in details, in a subtle level. But the mind still is. So you have to practice more. Practice every day. Do not craving. Otherwise you will be overgusting, become stressful. That's aversion. It's not relaxed, comfortable. The mindfulness is very important. To sum up, uphold the five precepts and cultivate mindfulness by meditating on an object. If the mind with the object knows so, if the mind drift away from leave the object knows so, on and on, you'll be able to recognize very more quickly, because the mindfulness is more quicker. When the right mindfulness happens, the right samadhi will happen together. For example, drifting away knows so, again, the mind will become stable and have strength. You won't have to preserve it. It'll be stable and upright. Once the mind becomes dominant and upright, then the aggregates will be separated. If the mind becomes stable and whatever the mindfulness knows, you see the three characteristics at that point. If the mind see the forms, you see the form as three characteristics. If you see the mental parts, you can see it as three characteristics. Even the mind, you see it under three characteristics as well. And there will be no self. That should be all for today. Is it difficult for today? Not difficult, because you only uphold the five precepts first of all, and then meditate on in formal meditation and do formal meditations. While doing so, do not try to forcing the mind to be still or calm. Be aware of the mind. But whenever you're tired, exhausted, do not pay attention to the mind. Just gently incline the mind towards the object of meditations and make your mind become calm. That's the calmness samadhi. And if you rest enough, and you should be aware of the mind. When the mind drifts away, meditate on objects. Once the mind drifts away, knows so, the mind overcasting knows so, and it will strengthen the mindfulness and samadhi. The right ones. Once you have the right mindfulness and the right samadhi, you don't have to be afraid of cultivating wisdom. You don't have to afraid not to be able to cultivate wisdom. You cannot forbid the mindfulness to be aware of the body and mind at that moment. Whenever the mindfulness is rooted, the wisdom will rise because the mind is stable. Whenever the mindfulness is rooted in the body with the stable mind, the mind didn't interfere with these phenomena, then you see that the body is not us. If the mindfulness knows the feelings, and with the stable mind, you can see that the feelings are under the characteristics are not us. So you have to understand this principle. Some people said that they cultivate wisdom through doing vipassana practice, but actually they don't even have samatha practice. And they think that they're doing vipassana practice. They attended vipassana course. Not so many people can cultivate vipassana practice. They don't even have the mind that appropriate for vipassana practice, let alone doing vipassana itself. Is it difficult? You can see that the body moves. Sense the body movement. Do you have to make the mind still to be able to see the body movement? That's AI, artificial intelligence. It's not body, it's not human. It's a homework submission. Number 1, try to train body to move and see the body breathing. I start to understand the natural mind, and I use the breathe as the object of meditation, like the mind starts to awaken. Can I try to breathe for you? If the mind stable in walking the path or not. You still have intention. You see that when you have intention, the mind becomes tight. There will be weight upon your mind. You don't have to do it for me to see, just breathing. When you want to do it, there's a word doing. What's behind the doing is the greed, causing the action and then causing the consequence, which is the tightness. So while practicing, you shouldn't have a lot of intention. Otherwise, you'll be tight like this. Number 1, now you're drifting away. You can see that. So meditation on objects. 1, the mind drift away, and also do not force the mind to be still. What you practice is good. You make progress. When you do, it will extend your practice. What I taught you will extend your practice, and try to be aware of your mind as heart as well, whether you're doing it with greed or not. Number 2, in formal meditation, you use walking meditation and take turn with mindful breathing. During the day, I could give rise to the mindfulness from body movements and see the changes of the mind as well. Can you kindly advise? The Paul said that do not push the mind like this. Do not push up the mind like that. It's too high. You interfere with the mind. Doing natural level, natural mind, to see, to learn the nature of the body and mind. If you have the natural mind, once the body is not natural, then you'll be able to see it. If you have the natural mind, once the mind is unnatural, you will be able to recognize it. But if you start off with unnatural mind, then it is impossible for you to see. This is good, but try to relax your intention, then it will be good. Keep on practicing observing like this. You can cultivate wisdom while practicing like this. When you are alone, you keep on observing your mind with natural mind. When outside, when the mind making contact with the world, you can cultivate mindfulness in daily life. While doing formal meditations, when you have the strength of the mind, you can cultivate wisdom in samadhi. But you have to have the right samadhi. Pushing up the mind like that is incorrect. The mind needs to be natural. Good. Number 3. I do formal meditation in morning and evening. During the day, I do smart practice and learn about the truth of the body and mind and all the contact makings. In the beginning, I start observing the mind and take turn observing the feelings. Sometimes their thoughts arise together with the mind. And the thoughts arises when, for example, the mind moves and there are wording saying that now the mind moves. Can you kindly advise? It's talking thing. It takes time. It takes many years to quit talking. And we're narrating like this. It happens to everyone. It's not something unusual. So try to be aware of your own defilements as much as possible, because when aversion arises, be aware whatever happens, no so. Now it's not good. The mind is drowsy. It's one of the 5 hindrances, which is the drowsiness. Do not make the mind drowsy like that. Breathing more heavily. Try to activate your self-awareness by breathing more heavily. Just a little bit. Do not heavily all the time. You can't become exhausted. Not good. When you when you're sitting meditation, you become drowsy. You can try to breathe in more heavily to try to activate your self-awareness. Do not make the mind become drowsy like that. You're accustomed to the mind being drowsy. Try to waken up. Do not make it asleep. Number 4. I chanting Buddha. I have less time doing formal meditation, so I spend most of the time doing cultivating mindfulness in daily life, become self-aware, doing different activities. In workplace, I have a lot of contact making, see a lot of suffering, suppressing my mind. I can see the changes of the body and mind. Can you kindly advise for me to appropriate for my environment? Good. What you practice is correct. It's good. When you're going home, you're doing formal meditations more, so that the mind gain more strength. Some people say that they cultivate mindfulness in daily life, but they're drifting or wandering away in the tasks, in the words. The mind will be scattered. The mind wouldn't have the energy, but you cannot forbid it. When you're going back home, try to do formal meditation. The weakness of the lay people is the not enough samadhi. I have telling you this for many 10 years. That's why I told you that you should walk like walking meditation for 3 hours a day. A lot of people do it and make a lot of progress. Some people learning for many years and they're stuck and still like they stepping on the same spot. But once they're doing this, then the aggregates are separate and can cultivate wisdom right away. But some people have limitations. They can do 3 hours walking meditation. They have the physical limitations. For example, they are aged and have overweight. It cause the legs to be difficult. But you walk as much as you can. But the most important thing is you have to have the mindfulness. But you can do the formal meditation for 3 hours a day. But if you start off by lacking, then your mind wouldn't be strong enough. You try to accuses to not practice. So first of all, you do more. You have to forcing a little bit. But if you are aged and old enough, not if you're old, old age, and you cannot walk all the time, you can take turn walking, sitting. Some people doing a lot of works in the morning and during the day and at night, and they wouldn't be able to sleep. 1 or 2 days still fine, but for many days went by, it would be difficult for your body. So you should try to increase the amount of time during the day, not like cultivating mindfulness in daily life, but we can do the form of meditation during the day. Like when I practice, when I was a layperson working in the parliament, I walked to different temples during my lunchtime. Today I went to that temple, another day I went to another temple, about a kilometers. I went to temples and I pay respect to Lord Buddha and come back. But actually I walk in meditation. But in the workplace you couldn't go back and forth doing walking meditation like that, because people will told you that you're crazy. But if you say that you're going to temple to pay respect to Buddha statue, then and they wouldn't blame you. That's why Luangpu Pramote Pamojjo said that once I am crazy, you say that I'm good, but when I'm good, you say I'm crazy. But actually, this society belongs to crazy people. They crazed about benefits. They crazed about power. Whenever they're hungry, they conduct misdeeds and unwholesomeness. Some people harm your relatives, your closer circles. Some people harm like the whole country. These people hate country, selling the country. They cannot find good things in that. When they have the power, they only have for a period of time, but once they go into the worst realm like hell, they will crying and weeping. So doing good things, commit good deeds while still can. Number 4, you practice what you do, but you have to set aside time. Whenever you have free time, you do more formal meditation. Without formal meditation, your strength of the mind will be less and lack of strength. But now you still have some strength of the mind, energy of the mind. If you don't have energy of the mind, then it will give rise to wisdom defilements. Number 5, I do chanting and listen to Dhamma, and my mind like to fight, and I understand my duty. My like to fabricate. I like to want to cry because I don't want to see myself bad. I kind of still I'm actually evil, but the mind feels so. I try to be aware of my mind more. Can you give me advice, me please? Luangpo said that would do what you do. If you could do and you see your own defilements, that good. It's good that you see different defilements of your own. You see that you're more evil than you thought you are. Actually, your true self is very evil. I can guarantee that. Do not be evil to other people. If you are being evil to other people through your body and speech, you are breaking the precepts. But you can evil within your heart. When the hearts become evil, it causes you suffering. When defilements arises, it causes you suffering. Then the mind becomes more relaxed and don't want to have those defilements anymore, because whenever it comes, it causes you suffering. Try to observe this evilness. You're very evil. Number 6. The screen freezing. It's freezing. Number 6. I used to... Wait a second. Number 5. Now you fabricate the mind to be still. Can you see that? You try to pretend the mind like this. Do not make it like that. It's not good. Be natural. It's good. Kasina, go on. I use the kasina like the visualization and breathing as well. When the mind sending out knows, I become self-aware. I can separate the aggregates. I could see 2 minds. The first is thinking mind and fabricating things and couldn't be controlled. The other one is still. So I try to put my mindfulness in the middle and see these 2 minds without interfering them. In daily life, I see the mind moves when making contacts. Could you kindly advise? Paul said that you should place the mindfulness anywhere. The mindfulness is something non-self. It can recognize the knower or the thinking. Then the knower will be indifferent. Whatever the mindfulness knows, just know so. Do not have intention. Then otherwise the wisdom will proceeding, will too advanced. Just be aware as usually as you can. Just have sweet smile. To see that you only smile according to your face. Only smile the face, but your mind start to relax. The good mind is like this. That you take a grip on the mind like that is not good. You are interfering with the mind. Number 6 that you have to be careful is that you shouldn't let the wisdom preceding you. Just try to, you can be stupid, you can be fool, and then it will be wise. If you're afraid of being fool and you're acting smart, then you'll be stupid. See, now the mind becomes joyful on its own. Now it's wrong again. You try to take a grip on the mind. You take a grip on the mind again. You stick your tongue out. You see that the mind is brightened. Do not incline the mind to be drowsy. It's not good. The good kind of mind is the natural mind. But once the unnatural things happen, like fabrications, then you'll be able to see it clearly. But if you start off by making the mind unnatural, whatever happens, you wouldn't be able to notice them because you already fabricated it. Now you incline the mind towards inside again. You see that? When you incline the mind towards inside like that, then delusion will kick in. Just get out of that state, have a smiling face. See the world, spectacular world, as the cars of, as the vehicles of the king that fools stuck in, but the knower trying to get away from it. Lord Buddha never told you to escape the world and get inside and hide from everything. Defilements arises from contact making, that's true, but wisdom arises from the contact making as well. Do not incline the mind to be still inside like that. It will be slow. You're very diligent at practicing and have good intention, but do not thinking too much. Number 7. In formal meditation, I listen to the Dhamma for about an hour and walking meditation for an hour. I sit in meditation for about 40 minutes a day, and during the day I can see the irritation, agitation, one arises and fall away as soon as abruptly. And I can see the indifference. Whatever I understand, I see the conceitedness. At the end of the day, I can see that those comprehensions changes. And I see the aggregate separated from time to time, could you kindly advise? Luangpu said that good, you have satisfactory progress. Keep on practicing, then once you have to develop the consciousness, know so because it makes you ugly. What you practice is good. Number 8. Back then I committed bad things to masters, but I don't have intentions. My mind is very miserable and my mind scatters in lost delusion. I couldn't do sitting meditation, so I walk. Sometimes thoughts really affects my mind, sometimes it's not. I can see that it works on its own. The mind gives rise to happiness and happiness on its own, but still us. Luangpu said that keep on observing, you see that happiness and happiness are not under our control, they are not us, doesn't belong to us. Be mindful of these phenomena and do not stuck in the misery of the mind. When you're stuck in this misery, then you're stuck for a long period of time. For example, you think that you are blame masters, but you don't have intention. You don't have you don't have intentions. So it's only minor consequence, doesn't very significant. It's insignificant. So you have, otherwise, then what you should do is you try to be aware. For example, you're blaming Lord Buddha, but it never happens to me. And you become startled. And you don't want to practice that when the Mara fools you. So you have to be aware that the mind is non-self. It can blame Master Lord Buddha on its own. Once it going to hell, it happens to the mind, it's not us. You can see the 3 characteristics. You can see in the aspect of 3 characteristics so that you don't become startled. It happens on its own. It's not you. All defilements give in 3 characteristics. When it happens, you try to fix it. Impossible. But once you see it as 3 characteristics, and it all gone. Not only the defilements, even the greedy, hungry ghost, afraid of the 3 characteristics as well. There was one master, he went to practice Dhamma, and there was a hungry ghost visited, and all the monks and novices said that these trees belongs to the hungry ghost, you cannot practice here. And the monk said that he wasn't afraid. So he sent invitation around there, and at night the hungry ghost came and tried to fool the monk. And even though he spread the loving kindness, the hungry ghost won't go away because it's very the hungry ghost really greedy of the tree. And that monk said that you hungry ghost, under 3 characteristics, you are suffering non-self and impermanent. And hungry ghosts give up and realize that the hungry ghost itself is impermanent suffering and non-self. So that should be all for today. There's a hungry ghost today. Story of the hungry ghost. Actually, a hungry ghost is around around temples. It's very easy. Like when you're going to having lunch or having meals, there's a lot of hungry ghosts. Like they're running towards the canteen. A few days ago, there was officers came and they are giving away trees, the plants to the people. The officers went to this in front of the sala, but all the people went to the canteen, and the officer didn't know the hungry ghost. So that should be all.